Hello everyone, welcome to Diplomatic Briefing. At the regular press conference of the Ministry of Commerce, the spokesperson addressed the issue of CK Hutchison selling its port. The spokesperson stated that since March this year, relevant departments have issued multiple statements, emphasizing that the sale of the port by CK Hutchison will be reviewed in accordance with the law, to protect fair market competition and safeguard the public interest. All parties involved in the transaction must not attempt to circumvent the review process in any way and must not proceed with the merger before receiving approval, otherwise they will bear legal responsibility. It is hoped that the relevant companies will remain fully aware of this and act with caution. This is the first time the Ministry of Commerce has publicly commented on CK Hutchison's plan to sell 43 ports, including those at the Panama Canal. The Ministry of Commerce's comments are 2 sentences longer than the statement from the State Administration for Market Regulation, expressing hope that the relevant companies will remain fully aware of this and act with caution. It is clear that there is an intention to persuade CK Hutchison as well as the transaction partners BlackRock and Mediterranean Shipping Company to withdraw. In addition, there were 2 major events last week that have impacted the global landscape. First, China and the United States reached a consensus, temporarily easing the tariff war and eliminating the risk of the world's 2 largest economies decoupling for the time being. The other major event was the brief aerial skirmish between India and Pakistan, where Chinese-made weapons faced off directly against advanced Western weaponry for the first time. As a result, France's most advanced Rafale fighter jet was shot down. Military experts from both China and abroad have already provided numerous in-depth and detailed analyses from the perspective of military equipment. However, the impact of this incident goes far beyond the military aspect, so it brings new perspectives to geopolitics and even to the global military balance. Of course, the structure of the global arms market will also undergo changes. In addition to the impact on France's defense industry, South Korea's defense sector, which has long relied on support from the United States, has also begun to worry about challenges from China. Seeing that China's domestically produced J-10C fighter jet has recently made a splash internationally, Korean media can't help but ask, will countries currently negotiating FA-50 fighter jet orders with South Korea turn around and opt for Chinese jets instead due to the outstanding performance of the J-10C? According to a report by the Korean media outlet Chosun Ilbo on May 12, China and Egypt recently conducted their first joint Air Force training, with China sending a formidable lineup that included the J-10C fighter jet. Almost simultaneously, during the India-Pakistan conflict that broke out in early May, China's J-10C fighter jet, serving as the mainstay of the Pakistani Air Force, successfully shot down an Indian Rafale fighter jet. This impressive combat achievement instantly drew global attention. Meanwhile, Egypt is currently in negotiations with South Korea regarding the import of FA-50 light fighter jets. Citing the views of analysts, Korean media reported that the South Korean side is concerned that after completing this joint Air Force training with China, the likelihood of Egypt importing China's J-10C fighter jets has significantly increased. The procurement order for the FA-50 from Korea Aerospace Industries, KAI, may be affected. From April 17 to May 4, the Air Forces of China and Egypt held the Eagle of Civilization 2025 joint exercise for the first time at an Egyptian Air Force base. This marks the second visit by the Chinese Air Force to Egypt within 9 months. According to CCTV News, during the China-Egypt Eagle of Civilization 2025 Air Force joint training, the Chinese side dispatched the single-seat version of the J-10C, the J-10S two-seat version, the KJ-500 early warning aircraft, as well as helicopters and several other main active-duty aircraft models, formed a powerful lineup. According to CCTV News, the participating military aircraft were not only from frontline units, but their selection and grouping were also even more closely aligned with actual combat scenarios. Although China's Ministry of Defense already refuted rumors in February this year, denying reports that the Egyptian Air Force had received the first batch of Chinese J-10C fighter jets, but South Korean media and some analysts say that this joint exercise sends a strong signal that Egypt is seriously considering introducing the J-10C. The Chosun Ilbo emphasized this point. Especially in the recent India-Pakistan conflict, the Chinese J-10 fighter jet has already demonstrated excellent real combat performance. After the brief air battle between India and Pakistan on May 7, statements from Pakistan, France, and the United States have corroborated each other, confirming one fact: the Pakistan Air Force deployed Chinese-made J-10C fighter jets. They successfully shot down multiple Indian fighter jets, including French-made Rafale fighters. The French Rafale is regarded as a 4.5-generation fighter jet, representing the cutting edge of current fighter aircraft technology. Although India has consistently refused to acknowledge this fact, like most media outlets around the world, the Chosun Ilbo also pointed out that if Pakistan's claims are true, this would make the J-10C series fighter jets successfully defeated advanced Western fighter jets in actual combat for the first time. Analysts say that, with a cost advantage at only one-third that of Western fighter jets, China's opportunities to export and sign contracts with other countries will increase significantly. A South Korean defense industry insider also commented that the price, as well as the political and diplomatic advantages of Chinese fighter jets, are becoming increasingly prominent. Against this backdrop, some people in South Korea are increasingly worried that Egypt's potential introduction of the J-10C could affect the duration of South Korea's Fa-50 fighter jet orders. Previously, South Korean media reported that negotiations between Egypt and South Korea regarding the import of Fa-50 fighter jets had already entered the final stage. It has been predicted that Egypt could potentially introduce up to 100 Fa-50 fighter jets. The Egyptian Air Force is the largest in the Middle East, possessing a fleet made up of American, Russian, and French fighter jets. In recent years, due to frequently experiencing restrictions from Washington and other Western countries, Cairo is eager to seek alternative options for advanced military equipment. This is aimed at strengthening strategic autonomy and avoiding excessive dependence on a single supplier. According to analysis by the Eurasian Times of India, speculation that Egypt might purchase J-10C fighter jets has persisted for several months prior to the recent joint training between China and Egypt. If Egypt seeks a more capable alternative to the J-10C, such as the American F-15, the Fa-50 will still remain a strong competitor. The American military news website The War Zone also pointed out that Egypt may still be interested in other Chinese aircraft, including China's increasingly diverse and advanced airborne early warning aircraft. One of these early warning aircraft was already deployed to Egypt during a recent joint training exercise. In addition, the Yu-20 aerial refueling tanker may also attract Egypt's interest. If Egypt ultimately goes through with purchasing Chinese weapons, it will not only open up a new market for China's military industry exports, but will also enhance China's influence in the Middle East. Weapon exports have always been tied to national power, and now American defense companies are also seeking larger markets. Originally, South Korea, as a provider of affordable Western advanced weaponry, had a certain market share in developing countries. However, following the outcome of the recent India-Pakistan aerial conflict, it is believed that South Korea will indeed face a significant impact because not only are Chinese products affordable and of good quality, but ASEAN countries with good relations with China, such as Indonesia, have also sparked heated discussions online. According to a South China Morning Post report on May 14th, this conflict has triggered domestic doubts in Indonesia regarding the government's $8.1 billion purchase of 42 Rafale fighter jets. Indonesian social media users believe that the Rafale's cost-effectiveness, combat capability, and strategic value are all lacking. While Chinese fighter jets are less expensive and have reliable performance, they are calling on the government to consider purchasing Chinese equipment. The report states that the Rafale's losses on the internet have sparked discussions among Indonesian netizens, with some questioning the rationale behind purchasing the Rafale. A user on Platform X said that after learning the Rafale may have been shot down by the much cheaper J-10, "As an Indonesian, I feel regretful about buying this type of aircraft. I hope the president can also purchase J-10 fighter jets and other Chinese military equipment." Another user on Platform X commented, "In the end, is Indonesia still going to buy the Rafale? It seems that manufacturing these fighter jets is even cheaper and more reliable." In January 2022, Indonesia and France completed negotiations on the fighter jet purchase. A month later, France announced that Indonesia had officially signed a contract to buy 42 Rafale F-4 fighter jets, including 30 single-seat and 12 twin-seat models. And the total value of the contract, it's $8.1 billion. Some foreign media analysis mentioned that the export unit price of the Rafale is between $200 million and $250 million, compared to 2016, when India spent $8.8 billion to purchase 36 Rafales at a unit price of over $240 million. Indonesia's purchase price per unit is also close to $200 million. In contrast, the unit price for the J-10C is only about $60 million. Although the specific contracts involve various prices for accessories, weapons, and after-sales maintenance, making it impossible to make a precise comparison, there is indeed a huge price difference between the Rafale and the J-10CE. In response to the current controversy, Dave Laksono, a member of Indonesia's House of Representatives' First Commission responsible for defense and foreign affairs, tried to defend the procurement. He said that unverified claims from certain sources cannot be used as the sole basis for evaluating a weapons system. Laksono. He stated that in modern military history, even top-tier fighter jets like the F-16, F-A-18, and F-22 have been shot down or crashed under certain tactical conditions. Therefore, it is not appropriate to judge the Rafale's performance based solely on an incident that has not yet been fully verified. He insisted that the Rafale is a necessary choice for the modernization of Indonesia's air power. The combat capabilities of the Rafale will enable Indonesia to protect its vast archipelago. In addition, this procurement also includes technology transfer from the French side and long-term logistical support. However, Laksani believes that Pakistan's claim of shooting down a Rafale also provides a reasonable and constructive basis for evaluation. Some experts have pointed out that the India-Pakistan air battle offers valuable lessons for Indonesia, including how the Rafale should be positioned within Indonesia's overall defense strategy. Adi Priyamariski, a military expert at Singapore's S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies, said that the Rafale is one of the best fighter jets in the world today. But the key lies in how to fully utilize its multi-role capabilities, rather than simply relying on an advanced platform. This is an issue that the Indonesian military needs to consider deeply. In the latest report published by France 24 on the 14th, it was mentioned that Chinese weapons performed beyond expectations in the India-Pakistan conflict, having been tested in real combat. This serves as a wake-up call for those who have long underestimated Chinese weaponry. Carlotta Relo, a China expert at the Verona International Security Research Group, said that from a perception standpoint, China has achieved a significant victory as it had not experienced real combat for decades. Therefore, these weapons have not been as widely recognized as those from France or the United States. But now the situation has completely changed. Lee Ludo, an expert at the Verona Security Institute in Italy, said that although Chinese weapons have long been considered cheap and of low quality, this one battle has overturned that perception. Chinese weapons are no longer inferior to those from the West. In the past, we always had the impression that Chinese weapons, to some extent, were similar to Chinese goods, not of high quality. But now that's no longer the case. Initially, China mainly exported tanks and small arms to countries like Pakistan, but now we are starting to sell extremely modern and technologically advanced weapons, and their performance in actual combat has been outstanding. As the expert mentioned, one conflict has shown the West that Chinese weapons are not inferior to Western equipment. The West should abandon this long-standing prejudice. In fact, what the West needs to change is not just its perception of Chinese weapons, but also its view of China's entire rise.